The reason your plants suck over the winter compared to spring and summer is not because of the cold. No, the cold weather outside doesn't have as big an impact on your plants as you might think. Well, that is unless you're stingy and refuse to put the heating on even when there is a blizzard outside. In that case, your plants probably will turn into the Grinch. There are bigger factors at play though, and we'll go over all of them in this video, as well as some top tips to keep your plants on side. Relatively. Now, our little green friends hail from the lovely, warm, bright sunshine of the tropics, where they get to wear shorts and t-shirts 24/7 year round, the lucky things, whereas the rest of us have to get on our big furry coats when the temperatures plummet. So the assumption is that they get really grumpy when winter comes around because of the cold weather. The thing is though, and I know this sounds obvious, so forgive me, but our green friends are living inside our homes. They're not getting exposed to the cold, snowy conditions of the great outdoors, unless you're punishing them for some reason. We enjoy the warm temperatures of spring, summer and sometimes autumn, and when winter rolls around, we stick on the heating, and we're not the only ones benefiting from this. So really, our homes stay pretty consistent temperature-wise year round, normally around 18 to 21 degrees. Or if you're in Casa Sheffield, make that 25 degrees. Mrs. Sheffield sure does feel the cold, and our energy supplier is reaping the benefits. Of course, this might fluctuate a bit in your home if you're going away for a few days or during the night, but as long as temperatures don't consistently stay below 12 degrees, your plants will be fine. And in any case, Casa Sheffield very rarely gets cold, thanks to Mrs. S, and still a lot of my houseplants tend to look depressed over the winter. Why? Well, the single biggest factor is light. Here's the kicker. Tropical climates are near the equator, and not only do they get consistent warmth year round, they also get equal day and nighttime hours during the whole year. Yep, 12 hours of dark and 12 hours of daylight for every day of the year. And that light is strong. None of that weak nonsense we get here in good old Blighty. And tropical plants love it. They've grown up on it and they know no different. Compare that to Sheffield, which, in case you didn't know, is a city in the north of England, and we get 7.5 hours of weak sunlight during the winter solstice. Go further north and it's even less. I mean, they're getting zero light in some parts of Norway in the winter, the poor suckers. And this is the problem. Our tropical friends have been plucked from the consistent light of their homes in the jungle and been told to live somewhere it's dark for most of the day. I'd kick up a fuss just as much as them, wouldn't you? And this is exactly why plants like alocasias go dormant during the winter. It's not getting enough light to photosynthesize, which sends a signal to the plant to shut down and conserve energy until the light returns. So if your alocasia has lost all its leaves during the winter, don't throw it out. Chances are the bulbs are still fit and healthy in the soil, so wait until spring or even summer to see if it sprouts new leaves. This is exactly what happened to me last year with my Frydek, and over the summer it's been looking great. So if you want your alocasia or any other plants that tend to look terrible over the winter to look half decent, you need to up your light game. And how do we do this? Well, there are a few tricks, but the best solution is to simply get yourself some grow lights. Now obviously I know we don't want our homes to be lit up like a football stadium during Monday Night Football, and believe me, Mrs. Sheffield definitely does not, but having a couple of grow lights dotted around the house with sensitive plants under them can be a real game changer. And by sensitive plants, you know the ones I'm talking about. Alocasia, Califea, ferns, some philodendron, and even ficus plants tend to kick up a fuss during winter. Consider getting these guys under grow lights and you'll be amazed at how much of a difference it makes. You'll be the hero of your house before long. Now I like to keep my lights on for 12 hours a day, so it really does mimic their natural environment, but you can definitely get away with 10 hours a day. But have a play and see what works for you. And I know what you're thinking, but Mr. Sheffield, it's going to cost an arm and a leg to keep these lights on all day. And yes, that's a decision for you to make. Luckily for us though, grow lights now use LEDs, so they're much easier on your wallet than they used to be. I've got 3 of them working all day, and I've not noticed any significant pain from my electricity bills. And here's a cheeky plug for me to make some extra pennies from this video, so that I can afford to keep them on. Check out the link to Sansi grow lights in the description, and use Sheffield 15 for a juicy 15% discount. If I've not convinced you to part with your hard-earned money, then the name of the game for you, my plant friend, is to maximise the light in your home as much as possible. So what can you do then? You could start by asking your window cleaner to actually clean your windows rather than just getting them wet, and you could even give them a clean on the inside. I know, balmy right, but it's been years since you last did it and it might just help your little green friend. You can also move things around a little by keeping your fussy Calathea zebrina closer to the window, for example. You shouldn't need to worry about scorching the leaves in the winter, but just remember to move them back when things start to get more intense, when the bluebells and daffodils start to come out. And for big bushy plants that aren't living on moss poles, it's well worth rotating them so that all the stems and leaves have a fighting chance of surviving. The plants I have climbing up something I tend to just leave to face in one direction. By the way, if you want bonus planty tips straight into your inbox for free, then why not sign up to my newsletter linked in the description? You won't regret it. Another key reason your plants are looking rubbish over winter is because of those pesky radiators that you have come on twice a day. Yep, those radiators are puffing out warm, dry air into the room and it's making your plant's lips all dry. And what does this do? Makes the leaves go crispy brown on the edges and tips. Yes, every plant owner's worst nightmare. Well, it is mine anyway, and something I go greyer and greyer over every day. Now this is tricky, and to be honest, there's no real easy answer. Not unless you want to shiver in your own home. I don't mind, but I'd never hear the end of it, to be honest. Your best bet is to avoid doing the daft things like keeping plants above radiators and under heating vents. If you've just glanced over to your plant-filled windowsill with a radiator sat snugly underneath it, then don't feel too embarrassed. We've all done it, I'm sure. I'd have a look at moving the fussiest ones to another spot though. I know, seems like you can't win, doesn't it? You need your plants in a brighter spot, but there's an annoying radiator sat in just the perfect spot. I guess you just have to figure out what the lesser of the two evils is. So earlier I went on and on about how temperature makes no difference to winter plant care, but this only applies if temperatures don't consistently go below 12 degrees for long periods of time. This means if you're lucky enough to go on a winter holiday for a week or two, that you should think about protecting them while you're gone. I know, it's probably the last thing you want to think about before jetting off to the Caribbean, but think about the pain of coming back to a crusty old Calathea. My heart would be broken anyway. Whenever I go away, and no, I can't afford the Caribbean, even with the proceeds from the Sansi affiliate link, I just go away to see the family at Christmas, I make sure to set a minimum temperature of 12 degrees Celsius for the house. Simples. And this next tip will probably make me sound like some kind of hypochondriac, but have a think about what plants are living behind the curtains. Yes, a cheeky microclimate of colder temps is probably being created behind there at night, so probably worth considering what plants you want to keep there. To feed or not to feed? That is the question. The answer is thankfully a lot easier than trying to understand a Shakespeare play. If there are signs of life, then continue to feed, my plant friend. If it looks like there's no one home, then leave the feed in the cupboard. If I've somehow convinced you to get a Sansi grow light, then continue to feed like you do in the summer. Live somewhere nearer the equator than Sheffield, then you might need to continue feeding too. It all depends if the plant is actively growing or not. But if you're really not sure, then don't bother. It won't particularly harm the plant to go a few months without fertiliser, and you can always give a lighter dose to be on the safe side. I go into more detail about plant fertiliser and what to look out for, as well as lots more tips to grow the best plants in my online course that you can check out down below. Check it out if you want everything you need to know to boss plant care all in one place. Now, don't get too flummoxed about watering too. I'll keep it real simple. Water when the soil is dry. It's honestly the only way. Don't try and go by schedules or listen to apps telling you when to water. The rate the soil dries out in your home will be different to someone else's home, so it's just a case of checking first and then watering when it's dry. Of course, it wouldn't be a Sheffield Made Plants video without a mention of the humble moisture meter, but if you're new here, I bang on about this thing all the time because it really is a game changer. Stick it in the soil and no more guessing. Beautiful. It's in my Amazon store, by the way, link below. Now, it's almost impossible to keep all of your leafy pals in tip-top conditions over the winter. If you're the exception to this rule, then do let us know your secrets in the comments. And what do you do when you've been working on your collection all year and you finally got the chance to show it off to all your friends and family at Christmas because it's your turn to grin and bear it, but the little gits aren't playing ball and developing yellow leaves with brown tips? A struggle I'm all too familiar with, but we do have something up our sleeves. Pruners! Yes, don't be scared to prune during the winter. It won't kill the plant, trust me. If anything is looking dodgy, then prune away without fear. Worst case, it just means there won't be replacement growth until spring, but in the meantime, it keeps up the illusion you have a perfect collection. Well, nearly perfect. And what about repotting? You might be thinking this needs to wait until spring, right? Again, be rest assured you can repot your plants in winter just as much as during spring. Roots tend to grow all year as long as temperatures are above 12 degrees, so if a plant is in desperate need of a repot, like my Anthurium here, then don't be shy. They'll only continue to get more root bound over winter, so they'll appreciate their extra room and certainly won't keel over on you. When you do come to repot your plant, then you want to avoid hacks like adding bits of sponge to the soil to retain moisture, and in this video here, I explain why, as well as warn about some other dodgy popular tips you should ignore, so check it out. And subscribe.